Today's presentation will be a Q&A discussion between Michael Smith, Senior MOM Consultant at ATS Global, and Evan Sloss, Director, EMEA Operations at iBaseT. So let's get started with our first question. How about you begin with this one, Evan? Are all MES solutions the same?
Short answer is no, they're not. The reason why is software has a DNA. It's developed to solve a problem, usually industry specific. So some manufacturing is process oriented, some is discrete, some is highly regulated, complex discrete. So in the case of Solumina, iBaseT Solumina, we focus on highly regulated, complex discrete. All of them have different challenges. So if you are a manufacturer that has two sides of your business, such as electronic and maybe hydromechanical, as an example, you need something that can manage both sides of that. And that might excludes certain people that you would be looking at as an MES, and it might bring some forward that maybe you hadn't considered before. So so the answer is no, but that doesn't mean they're all bad.
Thank you for that, and that's a good start. Maybe Michael, you could continue on this theme. Can you clarify further on the different production types and maybe how that can impact your MES selection?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, following on from what Evan was saying, you've got high volume where you're churning out high quantities of the same parts. Low volume, generally low volume, you will have quite a lot of engineering change involved. So whereas high volume, you're churning out the same. Low volume, they will tend to be more complex parts, tend to have a large number of sub-assemblies or components within them, which will require a lot more kind of information and worker guidance in terms of putting those together. And then I guess there's process as well, which probably doesn't affect too much of the audience here today, but kind of high volume, continuous processes that monitor a process as it flows through a continuous production line. So there's all different types of production, but I think beyond the different types, there's also the constraints of particular industries as well. So the amount of regulation, the amount of test and quality inspections that you might have to go with those different processes. So things like high volume, you potentially inspect the first part from every batch, maybe the first and last and one in the middle. Whereas when you're talking lower volume, the quality constraints are much higher, and you would do things like inline quality inspection, and have additional processes like that need to form part of that MES system when you're going down through your down selection.
That makes sense. That makes sense for sure. All right, how about we go back to you, Evan? And as part of this evaluation process, it seems that there are really two camps or approaches to the different solutions that are out there that a manufacturer could choose. There seems to be one camp that's more of an out-of-the-box approach and favoring more staying within the confines of what the processes are already in the MES versus a toolbox sort of an approach where we'll make anything, you can do what you like, and use that to set up to fit and be customized perfectly to fit your needs. Could you explain maybe a little bit more about the difference between those two and the pros and cons of each and where they might be applicable?
Yeah, so usually an out-of-the-box type application is more specific to an industry. So the software developer will have a focus. Let's say it's aerospace, defense, or it's process, or something like that, or it's oil and gas. But with the toolbox application, the answer is yeah, it can be anything you want. And that sounds good, but to me, that's always been a false promise, because what that encourages is customizing everything and maybe not sticking to best practice for the industry that you're in, and maybe resorting to a paper on glass type of application. So basically what you've done is you've taken what you do with paper in your factory and you just made it digital. But what you haven't done is really looked at your processes and looked at how a digital MES can actually improve your business. And so what I would say with out of the box is it tends to push you more towards this being a business change, a business transformation, because this is what it is, deploying MES. It's not IT, it's not manufacturing. So it is business transformation. If you want the most out of your MES, then you should be looking at out of the box. It doesn't mean 100% of what you do is out of the box. There is always going to be a bit of customization. But if you can maximize what you're doing out of the box, you reduce your technical debt, you allow yourself to change when there's, unusual circumstances like what we just got out of the pandemic, but also it allows you to integrate with more applications, it allows you to upgrade quicker, and it allows you to, as I said, continue your business transformation to improve your business.
Great. So I think what I heard you say also in there, and maybe you can touch on further, is really what business do you want to be in? It seems that maybe the out of the box approach might be better if you have a in-house IT staff or devoted resources to updating and accommodating future updates, because you're doing it more customized, as opposed to perhaps a manufacturer that's maybe more tighter on their budget and doesn't have as many resources. Maybe could you touch on that aspect of it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are working with more toolbox applications, you will need a larger IT infrastructure, and you'll be more reliant on usually large SIs to deploy and manage that. When you work out of the box, more out of the box, you reduce the need for that. And in the case of our application, we've seen companies doing full version upgrades in 5.5 hours. So that's the benefit of working out of the box. It means that, when you have toolbox applications, and I've seen it in the past, over many years of being in the industry, is that the further you get away from going live, the more expensive and harder it gets to make an upgrade. And usually you're pushed out because it's always expensive to upgrade. It's always expensive to make changes. So working out of the box, it's better for the business, and it means you're using your IT resource, in my opinion, in a better way.
Thanks for that explanation. That's great. That makes sense. All right, let's go back to you, Michael. From a solution systems integrator implementation perspective, you can't probably get 100% out of the box. So maybe you can give a perspective on how to accommodate the customizations that will. Is it possible to go out 100% out of the box? Maybe that's the question I'm trying to say.
I think that's going to depend on your business and the levels and the requirements that you have of your MES system. If you have a very kind of light touch MES or MOM implementation, then quite often you can go 100% out of the box. I guess something that we see quite often is a lot of people thinking that they're unique, or their USP in the marketplace is that their product is particularly unique. No one manufactures like them, and that's kind of their unique selling point. But often you can break that down into smaller ways of manufacturing, and it turns out that it's not as unique as people think. And I would say the first approach to when you're looking at a customization, I would suggest looking at the way the product or how different products would perform out of the box, and whether you could tweak your manufacturing processes perhaps to go in line with the way the product does it, so that you can avoid these customizations. Other ways that people kind of work around the customization aspect is to keep the product itself out of the box, but maybe customize in an external platform. So solutions like low-code solutions using the standard APIs, you can then keep the core functionality in the core product completely out of the box, so you can upgrade and move down the progression route easily, but keep those customizations in a third party as like a low-code, where you can add those customizations in relatively quickly and keep them self-contained. So when the core product changes, you can plug those back into it because you've used the standard APIs and your customizations migrate. So I'd say that's probably one of the more successful approaches to customizations that I've come across.
Sounds like a potential best of both worlds. Thanks for sharing that. All right, let's go. On for another question here. So what are some of the factors that you would share with a manufacturer that's trying to choose an implementation partner?
I would say choose a partner that's worked in the domain and industry that you work in, a partner that understands the way that you manufacture your product and how that business works, whether that's in terms of kind of the regulations and the constraints, or the way that the manufacturing process works, but certainly some domain experience. And I think that's core in terms of picking the right MES as well. Pick a MES system that's utilized in the industry that you're working in, because the strengths and the benefits from that will save you a lot of time and effort in your implementation.
And as a follow-on to that, how is the best way to really evaluate a partner given the inherent bias that will exist? Of course, everybody will say, oh yeah, we can do it best. What are maybe some insights you can share maybe as we wrap this up here on, ways to really build that relationship as a trusted advisor and understand that decision a little bit better?
Sure, yeah. Past experiences, use cases, if they've got customers that you can go and do a site visit with, that kind of shows how they've implemented in the past. That's a really important thing. Also just kind of working with them, running through workshops, ensuring that you have a good working relationship with each other. I think that's kind of key going forward, really.
Yes, not what you say, but show me what you've done, is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Get some evidence to back it up.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. All right. Well, that's 15 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're trying to keep this short and sweet, realizing everyone's time is valuable. We hope you can join us for the second session in the series that's coming up on Thursday. And this one's going to be overcoming the challenges of the implementation. So we talked about the selection today. Now we'll go through some questions and answers of some of the pitfalls to avoid so that your choice can go live and not immediately, but quickly start giving you value that you made the investment for in the first place. So thank you again for your attendance, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again shortly.